Well, hi there. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at marginal revenue, marginal cost, and profit. And I'm sorry that my sheet doesn't have the updated title for this lecture. But in this video, we're going to do three different things. We're going to first learn a little bit more about how we calculate profit. Then we're going to do some practice with finding the profit maximizing quantity. And then we're going to return to our paper chain data and actually figure out what we should have done with our paper chain simulations. So first off, one thing to understand is that there are two different types of profit. And I didn't teach this in the lecture, but it's really important for us to kind of wrap our heads around. And it's only going to take a couple of minutes. The type of problem you're going to see with this is the distinction between economic profit and accounting profit is usually going to be a word problem. So I'll give you one. Dr. Glossinger earns $120,000 revenue operating a record store. So assume you've got this guy, he runs a record store. He spends $40,000 on advertising, supplies, rent, blah, 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 blah. And he owns the building. If he were not operating the store, he could earn $80,000 as a high school teacher with no business expenses, no outlays. And he could rent the storefront for $10,000. And then here's two definitions, explicit cost and implicit cost. And basically the distinction between economic profit and accounting profit is that if you ask an accountant, how much profit am I making? All they're really going to ask you is how much revenue do you have and how much explicit costs do you have? How many direct outlays of money, spending on fixed costs, variable costs, the other expenses, rent, advertising, and supplies. But if you ask an economist whether you should be doing something, they're not going to calculate profit quite the same way. They're going to say, well, it's about your choice, right? So here, analyzing a business versus analyzing a choice. And the economist is going to say, well, you have to take into account all the stuff the accountant said, but in addition, you have to think about the implicit cost, which is your opportunity cost, is what you gave up. And so the economist is going to think about the bigger picture of costs in a way that the accountant is not. It doesn't mean that one is better or wrong, it's just different purposes. So what's the accountant going to say? Well, the accountant's going to say you earned $120,000 of revenue and you had $40,000 of explicit costs. And so gloss, you're earning a positive $80,000 accounting profit. Your business is in the green, in the black, if you will. If Dr. Glossinger hired an economist, though, to analyze his choice, how much is his profit, his economic profit? And that's going to be this 80,000, right? Because that's all this is, this part here, right? That's the same as above, minus the implicit costs of working as a teacher and as the renting the storefront. And so minus 90,000 gives us a negative $10,000. And because economic profit in this problem is negative, I should close the store, rent it out, work as teacher. Because if I do that, I will earn more profit from the total amount that I've got than I would if I had run the store. And so it's kind of a way of analyzing, is this the right choice to make? If it's a positive number, the economic profit, then we know we're making the right choice. We're doing the thing that actually gives us the most bang for our buck. All right, now let's take a look at this table with these values and answer some of these questions. The first thing up here is marginal revenue, and that's just the change in total revenue. And we know that that's also equal to the price and the demand curve for the firm. And we called that Mr. DARP in the last video. So 0 to 18 divided by 0 and 1, 0 to 1 is just 18. And 18 to 36 over 1 to 2 is the same thing, 18. And so all of these are 18. And at this point, we can answer the price of the product is $18 because it's a perfectly competitive firm and the marginal revenue equals the price. Now we're going to calculate marginal cost, and that's just the change in total cost over the change in total product. And for this first one, it's going to be 16. Then from 23 to 29 is 6, and then 8, and then 12, 16, and 22. And again, I'm just changing, what is the change in cost here, right? Like from one to the next unit of cost. That's also divided by the change in total product every time, but it's just 1 every time. So our denominator is 1. And now we can say, what's the fixed cost? Actually, we could have done that a minute ago, but the fixed cost exists even at 0 level of output. And we'd say that it's equal to the $7 total cost. Now let's do the part C, what's the profit maximizing output? And for that, we just compare marginal revenue and marginal cost. And we go, yeah, produce. Nope, don't produce that last one. We wouldn't want to produce this last one because the 22 is bigger than the 18. The marginal cost exceeds the marginal revenue of producing that unit. And so if we actually choose to produce the 6th unit, we are giving up profit. So we should stop here where marginal revenue still is bigger than marginal cost. I know it's not equal, but it's as close as we're going to get without marginal cost going over. So we would say quantity 5 because quantity 6 marginal revenue equals 18 and marginal cost equals 22. Q5 is the last unit before marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue. And so that's enough to explain using marginal analysis. What's really happening with the marginal analysis here is a little wobble. Is that we're actually comparing it to the next unit. That's the really important part, is that when we're explaining with marginal analysis, we need to think about like, what's the next unit going to generate for us? That's how we can actually figure those out. And that's how we get the point, right? We have to explain it in the way that the economics folks are going to want. Now, the last part is return to the paper chain factory and complete PS 3.2 and then answer the questions. So I've kind of pulled this sheet out already. And what we're going to do is take a look at this section. And these are the data numbers that I calculated from a kind of imaginary data set. You will probably have different numbers if you did the simulation. And we're going to take this little handy dandy calculator. I'll just put it right here. Actually, you probably can't even see that. Nope. Oh, yeah, you really can't see that. So I'm just going to use this little calculator off to the side, and we'll do that if I need it. We'll see. Now, marginal cost is going to be the change in total cost divided by the change in total product. And that's going to be a little bit more complicated than what we did last time. So it is useful here to kind of remember this one is the change in total cost divided by the change in total product. Another way that we could say this is the change in total cost over the marginal product, because we've already actually calculated that in the previous section. So the first one is just going to be, well, what's the change in cost? That's 12 divided by 6. Oh, that's easy. So we don't have a 0th one, but we do have 2 here because the change, 10 to 22, is 12 over 6. Then we've got a change of, what do we got? 8 plus 4 is 12. So a change of 12, again, in marginal cost. And now we've got a marginal product of 8. So 12 divided by 8 equals 1.5. And so that's $1.50. And now we've got a change in total cost of 12. And by the way, the change in total cost here is driven because every time we're hiring a new worker, it costs us 12. So normally the change in total cost is actually going to be the number that's changing, but not the change in total product. But this one, it's a little bit different because of how we collected our data. We're not given a kind of total product 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're given total product 0, 6, 14, 20, 25, 28. So that's why we have to do this little bit of extra math. So again, 12 over 6 in this case is 2. And then 12 over 5, 12 divided by 5. It's too early for me to do that in my head, 240. And then another 12 over 3, we could do that in our head, that's 4. And then 12 over 1 is 12. And this is actually a really nice pattern. This comes down and then comes back up again. We're going to find when we take a look at marginal cost in a little bit more detail that that's actually really close to how that behaves in the real world. Now let's take a look at total revenue. Total revenue is just the price of the product, that is to say $3, times the amount of product that we had. So we have the total revenue of 0 is 0. 6 times 3 is 18. Whoops. 14 times 3 is 42. And then 20 times 3 is 60. 25 times 3 is 75. And again, this is just the price times the quantity. And then 28 times 3, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. 84, that was way faster. Use a calculator. 29 times 3 is 87. Okay, and now the marginal revenue. So this is where it's going to kind of get interesting. I'm going to show you this, and then we'll kind of just go, I see. What's the change equals the change in total revenue divided by the change in total product, right? That's all that is. Change in total cost over change in total product, change in total revenue over change in total product. So for this one, our total revenue is changing 18, and then we divide it by that marginal product. So 18, because there's no 0th one here, we'd say 18 over 6 is 3. And then we've got another 14, or no, how much is that? 42 minus 18, it's 24. 24 is going from 18 to 42. That's our change in total revenue. 24 divided by 8, 24 over 8 is 3. And like magic, here we come back to 18 over now 6 is 3. Or yeah, 18 over 6 is 3. I don't know why I doubted myself on that. It has to be 3. 15 over 5 is 3. And then 3. And then 3 over 1 is 3. And this is actually kind of an interesting finding. You will find that marginal revenue equals the price of the links because it has to. This marginal revenue value is equal to the price because of this notion that we learned in the last lecture video of Mr. Darp. And now we can just simply compare these marginal costs and these marginal revenues. Where's the last one that we should produce? Well, here we should produce this one for sure. Marginal revenue is bigger than marginal cost. Produce this one for sure. Marginal revenue is bigger than marginal cost. This one for sure. For sure. And we should not produce and hire the 5th worker. So we should actually hire 4 workers. Notice that if we hire the 6th worker, whoa, that's off the charts marginal cost compared to marginal revenue. So we should stop with this, the 4th worker. And if we stop with the 4th worker, we're going to maximize profit. Now, let's test that out and actually see that it's true by filling in these last columns. And so total revenue minus total cost gives us profit. And so that one's negative 10. Total revenue minus total cost here is negative 4. 42 minus 34 is 8. So now we're in the positives. 60 minus 46 is 14, positive. 75 minus 58 is 17. And again, that's the one we predicted. 84 minus 70 is 14. And then 87 minus 82 is 5. And lo and behold, look, it holds up, ending up being true that we should actually have stopped at quantity labor 4. And that's the real magic to my eyes of doing this type of a problem. Let's go back to take a look at these questions really quick and see the profit maximizing output explained using marginal analysis. And we'd say quantity of labor 4 because, and then I'm just going to use these numbers. The marginal revenue was the last unit was the 4th worker. 3 is greater than 2.4 because marginal revenue $3 was greater than marginal cost of $2.40 and the quantity of labor 5. So I'm comparing to the next one, right? The marginal cost of $4 exceeded the marginal revenue of $3. So that gives me an explanation for why I would basically stop with QL4 is because I don't want to do QL5. And that's basically the same concept. Oops, I totally didn't realize that I was misreading this question. That one goes here, QL4. But the total product would be the same explanation here. It's going to be 25 is how many we should have produced. And so quantity 25. But the explanation is actually exactly the same. For that very same concept. So anyways, this is kind of a silly goof on my part. Really, we actually should have just had like one question to answer those. So now we know that this firm, at least in my data table, should have hired 4 workers. We'll take a look in your class, whether they should have operated at all even. That's a possible scenario. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.